Good afternoon. My name is Tani. I'm a senior director at Orbital ATK in Dulles, Virginia, and I'm the manager of cargo and mission operations for the Cygnus program on the commercial resupply services contract. We deliver cargo to the space station, and I'm in front of the OA6 Cygnus spacecraft, the SS Husband, getting ready to launch on an Atlas V out of Cape Canaveral, Florida here. And after their launch, we'll separate and spend a couple days rendezvousing with the space station and put ourselves in a position where the crew can grapple us and connect us to the space station to get over 3,500 kilograms of cargo and supplies that they desperately need.
So Dan, have there been any changes to the Cygnus spacecraft since it flew last December?
The differences between OA4 and OA6 in terms of the vehicle are almost nothing, with the exception of the NanoRacks, the microsat deployer that we have attached to the SM. But besides that, in terms of sensors and structure, it is virtually identical to the OA4 mission.
Now, will it carry as much cargo as the last Cygnus did, or will it be a little more?
The intent was to carry exactly the same amount of cargo, 3,513 kilograms. However, NASA came to us with a late request to add a few more, so we're actually 4 or 5 kilograms heavier than the last one. So we're at 3,518 kilograms of cargo.
Slightly heavier.
Just slightly heavier, but enough to make the record books for us.
Now, you guys had to switch over to the Atlas V launch vehicle from the Antares. I got 2 questions for that.
Sure.
The first one being, were there a lot of changes that needed to be made to Cygnus to get it to flying on Atlas, or can you give some details about what needed to be done?
Sure. Well, we didn't design the Cygnus for the Antares launch vehicle, so we knew that we were going to be compatible with several different launch vehicles from the beginning. That was one of the design inputs. And so when it came time to look for an alternate while Antares was working their engine issue, we took our interface and we compared it against all the launch vehicles that were available and found a great fit with the Atlas in that we had to make almost no structural changes to the Cygnus to be accommodated by the Atlas. We needed, of course, a unique payload adapter, but all of the loads and the environments that were published that we could see were within our design capability. So it was I would say, a relatively easy switch from the Atlas, from the Antares to the Atlas, and we were very pleased with the integration process.
Now, talking about enhanced Antares, that's scheduled for May 31st. Is everything still going according to plan with that, and what's it going to be like in terms of, for those of us that follow the prior launches? Is it going to be similar? Is it going to be a lot different? What can we expect to see?
You know what? I don't know what it's going to look like, if it's going to look any different. I know that we, Cygnus program, everybody at Orbital ATK is really excited about getting the Antares back to flight. They're making incredible progress both with the pad and with the what might seem simple but very complicated job of re-engineering a launch vehicle. And they're making great strides. You're right. We're on a path to do a hot fire test in the April-May timeframe, where we'll do a full thrust test of the new Antares on the pad, and then they'll take that off the pad. They will have already been integrating the rocket that we're going to use for OA5. We will be well on our way of processing that vehicle. We'll roll out, and yes, we hope to launch as early as May 31st, but whenever NASA's ready for us.
Now, NASA's chosen Cygnus Antares not once but twice. Could you maybe give us your thoughts on some of the key selling points as why NASA's chosen it twice to fly cargo to the ISS?
Best rocket, best satellite, as far as we can tell. But of course, NASA has a lot of priorities, and we think that we are the leaders in getting pressurized cargo to the space station, a large amount of pressurized cargo. The Antares provides redundancy in launch vehicle and launch site, and so moving away from Kennedy Space Center, although it's a fantastic facility, provides redundancy in terms of both range and weather, for instance, and so things that may affect Florida may not affect Virginia, etc. So we think our product is well positioned to provide our specialty, which is pressurized cargo to the space station, lots of it, disposal cargo away from the space station, and a redundancy in launch vehicle and launch site.
Now, how long will this Cygnus be berthed to the ISS?
Right now, the plan, the NASA plan, is to have us berth for about 55 days.
So this Cygnus has actually got a couple special points which we found out in the brief room, and we'd like to ask you about those.
Sure.
Talk to us a bit about the secondary payloads, the CubeSat deployer, I believe it is,
Yep.
and Sapphire.
Yeah, we're excited to be flying several major experiments on our flight. So the first is the Sapphire experiment. Sapphire comes from NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland. They have built and tested these flight units in close cooperation with us. It is stored in the Cygnus right here as we see it today, and it will launch to the space station. The crew will not unpack it. It will stay with the Cygnus. And once we depart from the space station, the Glenn folks will be in our control room, and they will oversee our commanding of their experiment. We will send it some simple commands which will start a fire on a piece of material encased in their experiment, and they will watch via video the propagation of that flame across material, which is the first time something of that size will have ever been performed in 0G. In 1G, flame is driven by convection, but there's no convection without gravity. So the investigation here is to really understand how flames, what the driving factors of flame propagation and combustion are in 0G. So we're excited to be just a small part of that experiment, just the vehicle for which it can produce its experiment in 0G. So that's the first thing. Sapphire is the first.
Right.
Second is the NanoRacks microsat deployer. It's a CubeSat deployer. It's bolted to the outside of our Cygnus here, and it has 6 launch tubes, as we'll call them. Each one of those tubes can launch 6 cube units of satellites. We believe we're carrying 5 deployable satellites with us, and we will get to a safe distance away from the station, coordinate with the trajectory folks at Johnson, and deploy those CubeSats for the NanoRacks company. Finally, we have one more experiment called the Reentry Breakup Recorder, and it's called the REBR, R-E-B-R, and the space station crew, it exists on the station now. It has already been brought to the space station. They will install sensors and this REBR sphere in our vehicle. The job of the REBR is to monitor the reentry dynamics, pressures, and temperatures, and collect all that data so the destructive reentry can be fully instrumented. And then after reentry, actually it survives the reentry so that it can transmit its data back up to the principal investigator via commercial satellite phone lines.
Tell us a little bit about the naming process for the
Sure. Yeah, we like to honor, we like to name our vehicles and spacecraft at Orbital ATK. It's sort of a tradition we have. And since we're supporting the human spaceflight endeavor, we've chosen to use fallen astronauts as our naming source. And so the first few were obvious because we had employees at Orbital ATK that were former astronauts that had passed away, and we thought that was an obvious choice. And so now we're at the point where we can find people that don't have a direct connection with Orbital ATK, but do have some sort of connection.
Right.
Rick Husband was a fantastic astronaut, commander of 107 Columbia, which we lost in 2003. And the connection with Orbital ATK is that his first flight on STS-96 was commanded by Kent Rominger. He's a vice president at Orbital ATK in Utah, and a fantastic guy. It's our honor to represent Rick, to have Rick represent us when we approach a space station. And what will be especially meaningful is that, like, I flew jets with Rick, and so did Jeff Williams. Jeff Williams, who will be on the space station when we arrive, was good friends with Rick Husband, as was Tim Kopra, who's on the space station.
Right.
So when they receive the SS Rick Husband, I think that will be especially meaningful to the crew members there. And we like making that human connection. Human spaceflight is great because it involves humans, and so we're able to actually use Rick's legacy, his name, to honor that connection that we all have, and to honor Rick and his family. His wife and his kids are still very visible in the astronaut office down in Florida. And so it's our pleasure and our honor to use Rick as the namesake for the OA6 mission.
Well, Dan, with that, we know that you have a busy schedule today, and we're going to let you get back to work.
Great.
Thank you for taking the time.
I
to talk with us
appreciate it.
today.
Thanks very much.
Take care.
Thanks for taking the interest.